So Stephen A. Smith did a one-on-one interview with Clay Travis over there at the Outtake Network. I believe it's called Outtake Network with Trey Travis. You know, Trey Travis also did business with Jason Watt, which when I first found out and I first heard this interview, I thought, Stephen A. Smith granting an interview with Trey Travis, who's pretty much in line with Jason Whitlock, was kind of eye-opening, for Stephen A. Smith to go over there. But whatever the case may be, Stephen A. Smith did a one-on-one interview with Clay Travis. He talked about his future. He also talked about his future as as far as staying with the worldwide leader of sports, ESPN. He said that he let his track record speak for himself. He's been number one, I believe, for 7 or 12 consecutive years over there at First Take, having the number one show, the number one rated show on ESPN. And competition is good, particularly since ESPN just recently signed Pat McAfee to a huge contract. And ever since Pat McAfee has signed that contract with ESPN, everybody else is trying to catch up, all right? And everybody else is positioning themselves and hopefully, either have the same similar contract as Pat McAfee or something close to it. And Stephen A. Smith feels like he's been devalued. I think he's got 2 more years on this contract at ESPN. And currently, as it sits, he's not the highest grossing personality on ESPN. It's folks like Pat McAfee, Troy Aikman, even though he mentioned Tony Romo in his package with CBS Sports. But you get and even Joe Buck, so ESPN is shelling out money for new talent, and Stephen A. Smith sees this. And Stephen A. Smith is planting seeds out there like, hey, if ESPN don't do me right, I will just walk away from ESPN after fulfilling my contract in the next 2 years. Now, if you've been following my channel, I've been talking about this for a long period of time. Okay, this is going to be news and new to all the content creators on YouTube, but I've been pretty much ever since they announced that they was going to hire Shannon Sharpe at ESPN. I already told you guys the fix was in. All right, in life, it's a game of chess, not checkers. And Stephen A. Smith is positioning himself to where ESPN has no choice but to fulfill his wishes as far as giving him a big time contract. Now, I don't think it's going to be as in the realm of a Pat McAfee, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And I'll explain to you guys why I feel this way a little bit later. But look at all this. Look what all Stephen A. Smith has done thus far. He positioned and set himself up when he got rid of Max Kellerman. He did not want competition alongside him with Max Kellerman. Max Kellerman didn't want to play the game with Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith got rid of him. Stephen A. Smith wanted this open panel where he debates a different personality each and every day. When he was debating Michael Irvin, when he was debating Tim Tebow, when he was debating Irvin Magic Johnson, the list goes on and on and on. JJ Redick, Kendrick Perkins, the list goes on and on and on. To show and to demonstrate to ESPN that he's the number one star on First Take, because the ratings never tilted or fell off ever since he got rid of Max Kellerman, and ever since he done this open panel. And now he aligned himself, pretty much was on the front of the line saying, hey, ESPN, you guys have to sign Shannon Sharpe. And they did. Now I feel, and I said in numerous videos, I feel like if someone needs credit for that, I feel like that's a 50-50 split. I feel like ESPN was going to sign Shannon Sharpe no matter what. And if Stephen A. Smith wants to take credit on that, he can take credit on that as well. But I feel like it's mutual 50-50 as far as credit goes. And he aligned himself with Shannon Sharpe, and Shannon Sharpe aligned himself with him because Shannon Sharpe is looking for a big payday plus his own show. Even though, they have been throwing crumbs, out there, on social media talking about that maybe a possibility that Stephen A will walk away from First Take, and Shannon Sharpe will be a perfect replacement for Stephen A. Smith. Now, Stephen A. Smith is pretty much in unison with that analogy. But I feel like what ultimately the bigger play is Stephen A. Smith at the end of these 2 years get his contract renewed at ESPN. ESPN gives him big bucks to stay there. And Shannon Sharpe, who's on a temporary basis, they rip up that contract and see the potential of Shannon Sharpe. And they also give him a huge payday. All right. Now, you already got Molly in the corner. Molly is not going to, waver her loyalty to Stephen A. Smith because Stephen A. Smith has been through Molly through it thick and thin, particularly when the fan base has, been hating on Molly and wanted Molly removed from from First Take. Stephen A. Smith will be fast to defend Molly. So, he's already got Molly in the corner. He got Shannon Sharpe, and he's been carefully strategizing this last phase, which is when his contract is up. ESPN is going to give him a huge payday, and it's going to benefit the people that's been in line with Stephen A. Smith. Shannon Sharpe will get his own show plus a bigger contract. Molly will have more to say and probably have more influence over there at First Take as well. So everyone's going to benefit once Stephen A. Smith gets his huge payday. Now, we're at the end of the video. Here's why I say I don't think Stephen A. Smith is going to get the same amount of money as Pat McAfee or anything close to what Pat McAfee is doing. Pat McAfee, the reason why he's got that money in the first place, he grew his own talent. He grew his own fan base. Excuse me. Pat McAfee didn't align himself with a CBS or ESPN or Fox Sports 1. He got it out the mud. All right. He was a content creator. All right. So he was already doing this by himself. So he's more valuable to ESPN because ESPN is looking at it as, okay, if we sign Pat McAfee, we're going to get all the bells and whistles, plus the ratings, plus the big splash on the front page, plus all the Pat McAfee fans are going to transition to Pat McAfee once he comes to ESPN. Where with Stephen A. Smith's fan base is not, organically grown. All right. Allow your boy to explain. Stephen A. Smith, and a lot of people, when they talk about Stephen A. Smith and how of a commodity Stephen A. Smith was, people seem to forget there were years when Stephen A. Smith was trying to stay on television. Stephen A. Smith wasn't the highest commodity out there. Okay. Fox Sports 1 had him for a time or two. ESPN had him for a little bit, then got rid of him. He went back to Fox Sports 1. Fox Sports 1 tried to, make him a star. They couldn't do it. When Skip Bayless saw Stephen A. Smith, he wanted Stephen A. Smith to debate him on First and 10. And once he got that opportunity to shine with Skip Bayless, because they knew they had something special between Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith, the rest, they say, is history. Now, Stephen A. Smith didn't come with a huge fan base or loyal supporters or fans that would just, travel everywhere Stephen A. Smith goes, unlike, the Pat McAfees or the Shannon Sharpes. All right. He didn't grow his fan base from the ground up. He sort of, was grandfathered in to this fan base because ESPN had the viewerships. ESPN had the fan base. All Stephen A. Smith had to do was come in and just do you. All right. So I think he's going to get a payday, but I don't think he's going to get a Pat McAfee payday because This is what you get when you sign Pat. This is what you get when you sign up Pat McAfee to ESPN. You get all the bells and whistles. You get your name in the front page, ESPN. You hopefully you get subscribers to subscribe again, just to see Pat McAfee shine. And on top of that, you got Shannon Sharp, and yes, Mike Greenberg, and Stephen A. Smith, and Troy Aikman, and all the other cast of characters ESPN has in-lined their pockets with. All right. Now, is there a possibility Stephen A. Smith could just walk away and leave? Because when you look at it, Stephen A. Smith has his own podcast. He has his own YouTube channel. He's sort of getting into the content creation as far as, a YouTuber. Okay. So he's starting to understand the mechanics of that, but he's sort of, coming in a little bit late. Shannon Sharp has already perfected this as an individual, as a content creator. All right. Pat McAfee was doing it from day one. All right. Shannon Sharp and Pat McAfee, to me, is like DJ Academics. All right. DJ Academics got his fan base from the ground up. Okay. He wasn't tied to a prestigious network or channel or anything. Yes, I know DJ Academics was signed to Complex with Joe Budden. They did Everyday Struggle. But DJ Academics carried he took his fan base to Everyday Struggle. And when he left Everyday Struggle, that fan base left with DJ Academics. Okay. And though when you got when you got individuals such as DJ Academics, Shannon Sharp, and Pat McAfee, they can pretty much control their own destiny, because they don't necessarily need the network to be viable. Okay. Whereas Stephen A. Smith, he needs the engine, the monster of ESPN to get him popping. Now, I understand he has his podcast and his YouTube channel. We'll see how that plays out and turns out. But Stephen A. Smith is kind of, late in the game with that. He should have been doing this a long time ago. But he believed in the old way, similar to like Skip Bayless. They believe they should be signed to a network. Let the network do all the leg work, and all you do is just come in, make your money, and go home. All right. And even though Stephen A. Smith is the executive producer of First Take was not created mainly and solely for Stephen A. Smith. It was really Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith. Skip Bayless left. Stephen A. Smith inherited First Take, but First Take was never created by, just Stephen A. Smith alone. Stephen A. Smith has always went to shows that have already put in a foundation. All right. Like the Best Damn Sports Show, period. A lot of people seem to forget about that show. Stephen A. Smith was part of that, but that show was created before Stephen A. Smith. All right. Then he went to Fox Sports Radio. Fox Sports Radio was his own IP. It was created way before Stephen A. Smith. All right. Stephen A. Smith just came through. And now ESPN. So it is what it is. I've been telling you guys this for months now. You got a lot of these content creators on YouTube. Now they're making videos talking about the possibility of Stephen A. Smith leaving ESPN. It's few and far between. But hey, I've been talking about this months ago. This is old news to me. And if you are subscribed to my channel, this is definitely old news to you. But this is simply a power play move. Stephen A. Smith has no intentions of leaving ESPN. He just wants to throw it out there, dangle it on a string, and hopefully the brain trust of ESPN hears what he's saying, and they're going to pony and pay him. I think he's going to get paid. I think he's going to get a huge payday, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere close to a Pat McAfee. All right. Unless ESPN is making so much money they can afford to do it. All right. But yeah, that's all I got for today. Guys, tell me what you think. Rate, comment, subscribe. I will see you guys in the next video. Deuces.